So now, why are you living with that gal that used to be your next door neighbor?
I couldn't stand it at home anymore, so.
How many mirrors have you broken so far, wharf rat?
Max, get out!
So you like the older boys, do you?
Dad, you're not gonna do anything?
You don't even think you're pretty, do you? I think you're pretty.
I'm already grown up enough.
16 is hardly grown.
I'm not gonna bite you.
I lied to you, Elva.
What shall I say? The cat has charmed the pudding state.
You know it's okay for someone to care about you.
Welcome to the Downing Cut. Today, my guest, Lee Ryan Coston, began her media career in Montana at the age of 18, progressing from camera operator to an award-winning television host and news anchor. After working in radio and television, she joined the Boeing Motion Picture and Television Company as a writer, producer, and director, earning a Silver Telly Award before founding Blue Heron Productions, where she creates indie films, teaches acting, and continues her work in voiceovers and acting. Please welcome to the Downing Cut, Lee Ryan Coston. Awesome. All right. Well, hey, this is going to work out then.
I do remember.
You do?
Yes, I do. Probably one of my first projects when I was. Did you ever audition for Boeing, for one thing?
No, but I just got laid off from them.
Oh, you did. I was one of the. Oh, that's a happy note. That was. See, I got to travel around the entire Boeing company. I mean, everywhere. And
That's awesome.
so, but I was one of the first people to start hiring actors into Boeing and doing narratives rather than just training people and saying, this is what you do. And so,
yeah, which is great. I think that's what they need.
It changed everything. It changed everything. And,
yeah.
But yeah, no, there was a film that I was doing, and I think you auditioned for it. I think you might have, because I recognized
possibly.
It.
Yeah.
I wasn't,
and I never got the role.
No, well, normally I'm involved in the casting, but in this particular instance, I wasn't involved. So,
yeah. I see.
The light.
Yeah, that's usually where people recognize me, is from auditions. What brought you to Italy?
A friend of mine asked me if I wanted to help him teach an acting class in Chieti. Never heard of Chieti, never heard of Abruzzo. And so, because I taught acting at the University of Washington, and he and I got to talking about acting and what makes a good actor and cha-cha-cha-cha and all this. And he and I just really hit it off and agreed. And he said, well, hey, why don't you come to Chieti? Why don't you come and teach with me? And, just a couple classes, just come and visit. And I thought, what the heck? Why not? Yeah, sure. So I did, and fell in love with Chieti. Neat little town. It's a classy little town. It's not large. It's up on a plateau, so there's no IKEAs, no car dealerships. It's all walk around these little tiny streets where like horses and chariots would go. I mean, it's that old. And
that's awesome.
Oh yeah, my house, the wall in my one house back right behind me, is part of an ancient theater. And when I say ancient theater, I mean we're talking like Shakespeare style, way back, where they would come clanking in their armor and stuff. Yeah.
Can you send me some pictures?
Oh, go on Facebook. I've got tons of stuff. If you go on,
okay.
If you go on
I'll
Facebook,
pull it from there.
You will see so many pictures of my house. Well, actually, I just got it decorated for Christmas, and it looks adorable. I have people coming by and taking pictures of my house. The American, the Americana.
Oh
I can
yeah.
hear them talking. I understand a little bit of, a little bit of Italian, piccolo l'italiano. Um, but I can understand some of them, and they'll say, "Oh, americana." "Oh, sì? Oh, bellissima. Oh, americana. Oh." It's like, "Oh, she's adding something to the to the city."
I wanted to ask you. So, when you taught acting, do you need an interpreter?
I
Then,
don't teach acting here.
as you're
No,
speaking?
what in here when I was teaching here? No,
Yeah.
it's his
Yeah.
class, but he had me come as a guest from America. They are
Oh, okay, okay.
fascinated by no, I taught in at Seattle. No, they are
Yeah.
fascinated by Americans and America. Oh, I love America. Oh, Stati Uniti. Oh, I love America. America. They love America. But of course, they love what they see on TV. They don't know the truth of what really goes on
Right.
in America.
Right. It's an
Fence
image.
all over and stuff. Yeah, no, they don't know any of that. But
So you just came as a
mhm.
guest, and then it just stuck to
Yeah,
you, and you
no, but I've
stayed.
always
You're
loved
like,
Italy. I've been to Italy like 5 different times, and I thought, you know what? One of these days, I'm going to move to Italy. I'm going to do it. I love it here. This is just too cool. There's just, America, I tell people here, America is good for your pocketbook, no doubt. And if you want to learn and you want to advance, America's the great place. But I said, is what's good for your head and your heart? Italy.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
always wanted to move here. And so, I mean, I've been to, Venice and Rome and Fiorenza and Napoli and Sorrento and all the different places. Never been back here. This is on the calf of Italy, is where Chieti is located. And
oh, okay.
spelled Chieti. So people like
Shitty.
Chieti. And I've never been back here. And so I thought, wow, Abruzzo, never heard of that. It's very much very wide open, kind of like Montana, where I was born. Um,
Yeah,
but it's amazing. I mean, the fresh vegetables and fruits and everything is it's unbelievable, unbelievable,
I
like
believe
something
it.
an Italian movie. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I really decided, I think I'm going to move here. And I came back a couple times and just to check it out, to look around, to buy something because I didn't want to just rent and not the renter type. And so I fell in love with it. I thought this is it. This is where I'm going. And so I got the wheels turning and made it happen. So I've been here a year. On December 13th, I'll be here 1 year.
Wow, congratulations. Was it the atmosphere and the nuances and things? Everything's probably completely different than over here. It's
Oh,
probably a lot
oh,
slowed down,
oh,
more relaxed,
oh, oh,
peaceful.
piano, piano, tranquilla, tranquilla, as they say,
Yeah,
especially when you're trying to learn the language. They
yeah.
they go, no, no, piano, piano. Except they talk veloce, veloce. They talk very quickly. And so you have to,
Interesting.
lentamente, per favore. I can't understand. No, it's much slower. In fact, some of the slowness drives you crazy and as an American because we like things fast. And the more money you have,
Right.
the faster you can get it. And in Italy, it's like, they don't care. Huh? They don't
Yeah.
care. The post office, you're going to spend an hour to an hour and a half at the post office to mail one package. And that's not because there's a line. I am not kidding you.
An hour to an hour and
Oh
a
yeah.
half.
Yeah. And that's to mail one package. And there's no line. I just was there yesterday mailing a Christmas present.
What is it because of conversation? What
No,
is it
it's
because?
because the man is, I swear, why don't you come to Italy and we'll make a short film. Uh, I'm
Yeah.
serious. No, it's like something, it's like the Three Stooges in one person. It's where the guy is, he puts the address in, he types the address in, and he types it backwards. In Italy, it's like my address is Via Gabriele Rossetti, 39. But in America, the number comes first and the street comes second. So he takes and
Right.
swaps it. He just decides to swap it. And it's like, no, 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 no. And I'm showing him, no, this needs to you go, oh. So he changes it, but he doesn't change it correctly, so he has to do it again. And then he goes to turn the screen, the monitor. He goes to turn the monitor so I can get a look at it to see if it's
Uh-huh.
and and it unplugs. So the screen's blank. So he's laying the monitor on its side and he's trying to wiggle the plug back in, but
Oh
it's
my
not
gosh.
working. So he goes to the next monitor to look at the next guy's monitor to see how his is plugged in. And then he comes back and he gets it plugged in. I say, "Oh, bravo, bravo." He got it. And so, and then he goes to, there's this other form he has to fill out. Of course, he doesn't have it handy. This is the post office. They don't mail packages there, right? So why would they have the paperwork handy? So he goes through the door. I mean, he leaves. He goes through the door. He comes back out with one piece of paper and he sets it down for me to fill out. So I fill out the piece of paper. I have to sign it. There's all of this stuff. This is to just mail a package, nothing, exciting. And so
Yeah.
it's just like unbelievable. And then I go to use my bank card, which is a debit
Yeah.
card. And I go to use that and it won't work for some reason. It just won't work. So we can't get that to work. So I have to give him cash and he has no change. So I have to dig around and find exactly the right centissimo, to give him. Yeah.
That's your short film
Oh
right
my
there.
gosh. Because people won't believe it. When you tell people, when they say, that Italy is very relaxed, it is
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
But if you're an American and you're used to things working quickly and efficiently and, boom, 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 getting things done, it's not like that. His grandfather probably sat in that chair 80 years ago. And then his father sat in that chair and now he's sitting in that chair. And that's very typical of things to be handed down through the family, even positions. So he's not going to get fired
Interesting.
because it would be his uncle
Yeah.
firing him. And if the uncle fired him, he'd have to come and live with them. So, that's not, it's just, it was, I'll tell you
Wow.
what, it was everything that I could do to not be laughing my ass off. I was, I was dying. I was dying because as a writer, I see every time I see anything I see, there's a story. There's a story and there's
Yeah.
shots and you can't help but that you just think that way. If you are in this profession or if you're meant to be in this profession, that's the way you think. You just think that way.
Yeah.
And so I've got a whole script I'm working on as this guy's fumbling around and I'm just dying. So because
You're like, you can't make this
like
up.
I just want to send this to them and say, this is what Italy is like. This is not made up.
Yeah. Yeah. Lee, since you taught acting,
Mm.
what makes a good actor?
um, I have a thought about that. Um, I think a lot of people like to be actors because they like to climb out of their own skin a little bit and live a different life. And I think we all feel that way at times. And I think that um, you can learn the what you should and you shouldn't do on a set or on a stage. There's certain rules. There are certain rules that you can learn and that you must learn. There's also practice, getting the opportunity to practice in a class that's good. But a good actor, I believe it's a God given talent. I don't believe it's something you can teach. I just don't believe it. And I have experience where I've seen that. I have actually rewritten a script for a woman who had never acted in her life, and she got a lead role in a film that I did, and she also got two supporting actor awards in competitions. And I had to rewrite the script. Sandra Sprague, which a lot of people know in Seattle. Sandra's a good friend. Sandra was she worked with me as my casting director. And I think I was the first, I think I might have been one of the first people she was a casting director for, I think. I'm not sure, but I think so. And she was kind of just getting into it. And she's very good. And we looked at all these different people, and the script was written for a family. It was a true story. It was written for a family. And it's also where I learned that sometimes you have to toss the baby out, which is very painful because maybe there's a character that it means it's the story. The story is about this person, and you think it has to be a grandmother. Well, if it's written properly, it could be a very dear next door neighbor, and you can change the story. Well, the woman, it ended up, everybody who was auditioning ended up being white. So it was like Lily White Productions. It's just like, where are all of the people? They talk about diversity. I have nothing for or against either way. It's like, bring in the talent. I don't care what color, size, shape, or anything you are. Just come on in, right? And, but everybody seemed to be white. And when I did get someone who was diversified, somebody different, there was no other family member to match with them. I couldn't even make a black mother with a white father or something. I couldn't even miss. Well, so here comes this woman who's a beautiful black woman, really. She comes in and she auditions for the role of the grandmother. Well, she sees no other people of color in the people who are waiting to audition, so she almost turned around and left because it was like, how am I going to be a grandmother to these people, right? Well, she went ahead and came in, and Francesca was her name. And she came in and she blew our socks off. I got I get goosebumps on my arms when a shot is right. Like the cameraman used to turn around and look at me and say, how's the arm doing? Like, no, they're not up yet, because the shot, but when it's right, the hairs go up. The hairs were up on both arms, man. I needed full sleeves. And Sandra and I looked at each other and it was like, there she is. That's her. What am I going to do? And so I went home that weekend and we were talking about it. I said, I'm going to rewrite the script. She's that good. She can tell the story because it's all about story. It's not about the actor. It's about the story and finding the actor that can tell that story. And an actor who is willing to allow the character to live through them. Most people aren't willing to shed themselves. It's kind of like a cocoon thing. Really, you are the shell, the cocoon that flops off to the ground so you can let the butterfly, the character, live. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that because they want to be the star. They're not willing to let the character be the star. And so I think that's a personality. I think it's a God-given talent. I don't think that a good actor requires training. It's just there. And she asked me all the right questions. When I told her, I called her up and I said, you're getting the part. And she said, but how's that going to work? I said, don't you worry about that. I'm rewriting the script because it was my script. I said, I'm rewriting the script. And she was blown away. She was so grateful and she did such a great job. She was all in. She would do anything to make it work. What do I need to know? What do I need to learn? Tell me about being on a set. She just was gobbling up all the information. She was a gift from God, let me tell you. She was amazing. She was absolutely amazing. And she proved how amazing she was every day on the set. Every day on the set, she was amazing. And like I say, she got 2 awards for Best Supporting Actor.
What prompted her, if she's never acted, what prompted her to
Her
audition?
parents
Did
were
you ever
singer
find out?
performers. And so she was used to being up on a stage singing with her family. And
Yeah.
so it's something she was interested in. And I presented the auditions on Facebook in such a way that she thought, I'm going to go for it. And so she did. Thank God. Thank God she did.
Nice.
Because everybody else would have been just accepting. It's like, well, yeah, we can use that person. They can do a good enough job. It wasn't that we didn't have some good actors auditioning for it, but my hairs didn't go up. I mean, as cornball
Yeah.
as that sounds, we all have those things that tell us when it's right. And that's my,
Yeah, it's like the shoe fitting perfectly,
yes,
right? There's no
yes,
wiggle room.
yes.
It's just
Well,
solid.
it's any scene in any movie. You watch a movie and all of a sudden you just feel something happening inside you. Something is changing and rearranging and lifting because it's the moment. It's like in Elf, the movie Elf, when Santa lifts off and those reindeer are pumping and the legs are going and it's just like I feel like a child again. I feel these goosebumps all over me, and it's like I've got tears in my eyes, and I'm like, yes.
Well, what do you say to the people that don't have the natural talent?
I'm honest with them. I say it's not that you can't be an actor, and I normally people don't come right out and say, "Do you think I should be an actor?" Sometimes they do because I was teaching student age as well as adults, older adults even, and they will, I'll talk to them about. I help them as much as I can, about getting into the character, allowing the character to live, finding something about that actor, some of that character. I'm sorry, finding something about that character that you can identify with, that you can understand, whether it be something in your life or somebody else's life. Maybe this character makes you think of an aunt. Can you replicate your aunt? Can you, whatever. Um, and so I'll talk to them, but there comes a time usually where somebody will say, "Do you think I'm ready?" And I have to be honest with them, and I have to tell them that, because I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to try and get them to sign up for another class. I'm just not like that. And I'll tell them that I think you can do definitely background work, definitely. I think you can do some small parts, but um, as far as the real deep, the big parts and the really powerful roles, I don't know. I don't know. It could happen, but my belief is that it's a God-given talent and it's either there or it's not. And you see it in the eyes, you see it in the face. You know when someone is sincere. It's like when I'm talking to you right now, you
Yeah.
know I'm sincere. You can see it in my face that what I'm saying, I believe. And when you're portraying a character, if you don't believe what you're saying, if you don't believe that character, if you don't love that character, because everybody loves themselves. So you have to love your character. And if it's not there in your eyes, the camera spots a lie in a New York minute. I mean, boom, just like that. The camera sees the
Yeah.
lie and it doesn't work. And we've all seen scenes in movies, and it's even a secondary character. There's some films I've seen that are beautifully done, beautifully cast, and then all of a sudden there's this person, small role, real estate agent, something, small role, and they ruin it because all of a sudden I'm taken out of the story. It's like, who is that person?
Right.
Someone's sister? Someone's cousin? Is that someone's wife? Why is she there? I don't believe her. And now there's this
Yeah.
doubt in me that it's going to happen again. When's it going to happen again? When am I going to be fooled again? So you've got to be very careful with casting.
Do you think as a child, they always say the imagination, and as you become adult, you have to unlearn what you've learned. Do you think there's actors that are people are born as actors and creative and have that imagination, and as we grow up, our inhibitions start to compound, and that's what classes are really to help us do, is to kind of lift up all those inhibitions and kind of
Feel the
release
onion.
that and just be like a
Feel
child?
the onion. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I was a very creative child, very, very creative. But because I was alone a lot, I hid my room from my mean older brother who teased me constantly. Oh, he was wicked. Oh my gosh. He told me I was ugly, stupid, clumsy, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I was under this cloud that I was this disgusting creature. And never trusted if anybody said anything nice to me. I knew they were just, what did they want? And so you end up being by yourself. I would go into my room and I would pretend. And
Yeah.
I would sit in front of the mirror and I would speak in a French accent and I would play with the makeup and talk about beautiful. Oh, this is going to make you so. And I was a goofy little kid. And I was always making things. I was writing little books, little tiny books, little stories. So I spent a lot of time by myself doing that sort of thing. But then you get out into the world and words like weird, different. You're so afraid of your brother being right or the people who are unkind with you being right that you tend to kind of hide yourself. The onion skins, you just kind of hide yourself. You just want to fit in. You just want to be liked. You want to be, one of the group. And unfortunately, that the uniqueness that makes you special is buried. It's buried in this conglomerate of what you think everybody wants you to be. And it took years for me, and a very dear grandmother who believed in me, that said I could do anything that I put my mind to. Um, it took me many years to go for it, to think, what the hell, I'm going for it. Life's too short. Life is far too short. And too many people die saying, gosh, I wish I would have. What would my life have been had I, you know, I'm not going to be in that nursing home doing that. And I don't wish that for it.
What started you on the path to the film industry? Acting, directing, writing. Well, how did that all begin?
Stumbling and tripping and falling into it. Here's the crazy thing, Joe. I have never trained or been qualified or experienced in any job I've ever gotten. Is that the cornballest thing of all time? It's absolutely true. I ran a great big camera in the studio, television studio. I had no experience whatsoever, but I got the job. And they had a commercial that was supposed to be cut that didn't get cut, and they needed a woman's voice for a men's clothing store. And they said, well, could you do it? I went, So they put me in the studio, and I recorded it. And the guy who owned, it was Kaufman's Men's Store, which was a very posh, expensive men's store in Great Falls, Montana. And he loved my voice, and he decided he wanted me. And the news director said, Lee, you should think about doing radio. I have kind of a weird, right now I have kind of a weird congestion sound because I just got through being sick. So I have this different sound to my voice. But in other words, I'm trying to say I would sound much better later. But he said, you should think about radio or something. I went, radio? I mean, as insecure as I was, radio? Oh yeah, where people can, pick at me like my brother did, and I thought, no. Well, he kept saying, really. And I thought, well, you in radio, you're hidden. Nobody sees you. I can have a different name. Nobody will know who I am. And, and I can kind of be me a little maybe. And I went and played around from midnight to 6. A friend of his let me go into the production room, and I played on the radio. I played, like introduced songs and stuff. And a job for a copywriter opened up. Well, I'd always liked writing, so I got the job as a copywriter, and I actually won an award for copywriting. But then a job opened up for a weekend announcer, so I got that job. So I'm copywriter in the weeks, and I'm an announcer, no training, right? I'm a copywriter throughout the week, and then I am I'm a announcer, a disc jockey on the weekends. And then I got another job working as a disc jockey. And then I heard an announcement that they were looking for a booth announcer at a television station. And I thought, a booth announcer? What the hell is that? What's a booth announcer? But I thought TV. I used to run camera at TV, so kind of a comfortable place. And I auditioned. I went down and I talked to the manager. He liked my voice. He said, we've never had a woman announcer in this state. He said, I don't know who that's going to go over, but he said, men tend to listen to women's voices, and men tend to women listen to men's voices, and women, well, anyway. And so he said, I think it might work. So he said, oh, by the way, you'll be doing a talk show too every day. And I said, a talk show? Like on TV? And he said, yeah, well, this is a TV station. And I thought, oh, dear God. Out from behind. And he said, well, let me know when you want to come back and do the audition. I said, well, can we just do it now while I'm here? Because it was another town. I had to drive to and I interviewed this guy. And when the lights shut down in the studio, the entire engineering room was filled with faces. They were all watching. And everybody decided I was the one. So I was a talk show host for 3 years. And because of being a talk show host, once again, no experience, I won a regional award for Broadcaster of the Year. I won, and I'm just weird. I mean, because I think that it was a God-given talent. It's not something I earned or anything. It was kind of there, just kind of I don't know. And so because of that, we had to go on and do productions, on location. And I got to interview some really interesting people, really, really interesting people. And so I learned a little bit about production, about, the cameraman shooting from this angle, that angle, and how to make things work, and jimmy rig this and change that. And sometimes equipment didn't work, but you figured out something. So I learned that. And I'd gone as far as I could go in Montana. And I thought, okay, well, I need to go to a larger city. So I literally flipped a coin, and it was Seattle or Denver. It came up Seattle, so I moved to Seattle. And
Wow.
yeah, so I worked in radio for a while. And then somebody told me, Boeing has a motion picture company, which is huge. And I thought, Boeing, the airplane company? And they said, yeah,
Yeah.
huge. So I, not knowing this is not the way you do it, I got on the phone and I called Boeing information, Boeing information. I said, "Can I talk to the motion picture company?" Well, I got a hold of my boss's boss, which was a woman looking to hire more women, and I got hired as the voice of Boeing. So I did all of the important information lines and different things like that for Boeing. But they had to justify hiring me full time. And he said, "Have you ever done any video production work?" And I said, "No, but I can learn." And he kind of looked at me like, eh. And I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll come and I'll work for a month. And if I can't do the job and you don't see any potential, you can just fire me and you don't have to pay me." He shook his head and he said, "I'm going to give it a try." So I learned on the job how to do production, how to do all the different shots. The other producers, there was one producer, Brett Layton, who was asked to come alongside me and show me the ropes of how you put a production together. And I was a good writer as far as like writing scripts, but I was a narrative
Mhm.
writer. I like to write the story. So I was a little bit different than the typical Boeing people, but I was able to talk my clients into giving it a go. Because I said, if you can tell a story and make people feel and care for these characters that are working for Boeing, then you've got them, you know? And I talked them into it. And they let me do that. And I won an international award for Boeing for this series I put together. It was a safety series, but they were all narrative, all narrative. There was 8 of them.
Yeah.
And so I got into the business stumbling and tripping, not with any intention really. Um, and from that, from when I left Boeing, um, I really liked doing production. I liked doing scripts. So I decided to create Blue Heron Productions. And the name Blue Heron comes from somebody seeing me when I used to be a talk show host. And when I didn't think the camera was on me, I would look down because I wear glasses typically, and I would kind of get close to
Yeah.
my notes, and then I would come back up. I thought the camera didn't see me, and this guy at a bar said, "You look like a blue heron bobbing for minnows." And we'd had a few to drink. So I said, one day I'm going to have my own production company. I'm going to call it Blue Heron Productions. And I did. And so,
Yeah.
so I had Blue Heron Productions, and I did productions for Microsoft and for Boeing and for just all kinds of different things in the Seattle area. And and then I decided I need to start telling stories that matter, that change lives, that somehow make a difference, not just entertainment, but or because they say this story, you need to tell people how to do this or need to train people how to do that. I wanted to make a difference. And so I started writing scripts and connecting with people in the Seattle area. And again, no formal training, but I have met. I mean, Stuart Stern became. He wrote Rebel Without a Cause, and Stuart and I connected like nobody's business because he had a childhood like mine. And so
Oh.
he and I just really connected. And Tom Skerritt and I put together a 90th birthday party for him. And so I got to meet some really wonderful, interesting people throughout Seattle, just from I went to the film school. I did this every time I would get a job, and then I thought, I really should get some training. You know, always after the fact, you know. Gee,
Yeah.
maybe I should learn something about script writing, you know. And so so I would went and got training, and but through that is I met people and relationship and connections. And so that's what made it happen.
Interesting. Okay. I have so many questions. With the Boeing, going back to
Mm.
Boeing and doing the production of training and creating a story and really kind of hammering on the actual safety and quality and all that. Did did you do that at Microsoft as well?
Microsoft, I was the first one to know that Bill Gates had a special system in his house. He has a large room that he has guests come into. And when you come in, it was, I can't remember if that was your eye or your thumbprint, but you would come in and program in what you like. Lighting, music, temperature, fireplace on or off or whatever. And when you would come in, you put your thumbprint, the room would be ready for you by the time you got there. So I
Wow.
got to produce shows that talked about that before anybody even knew about it. Things like that for Microsoft.
Okay, so it was like innovation type tech
Yes. Yeah. Which
type.
I am the most
Okay.
least technical person in the world. Anyone who knows me there's two things I cannot do: cook or technology. And, and vero. In Italian, that means true. Vero. Um, I'm horrible at both. But I have learned that if a technical person like an engineer, here's a story about Boeing. There was an engineer from England, and it was one of the first shows that I needed to produce, and it was explaining flight. Well, how the hell do you explain flight? How does something of how many thousands of tons, you probably know, how does that thing get off the air? And they say, oh, well, it's the Bernoulli principle. Yeah, okay. So what is the Bernoulli principle? So they're explaining this to me. I said, that does not explain how that thing gets off the ground to me. And if this is for the common person, if you can make me understand it, I guarantee you, I can write a script that will help other people understand it. And this engineer, he was driving him nuts because I would always say, but, okay, but. And he told me, he said that he didn't think I was going to last a year at Boeing. Well, I lasted 7 years. He did not, and I got an award.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah,
Did you have to hire actors outside of Boeing, or did you use internal
I tried
people?
to do both. In some cases,
Okay.
I wanted to use the regular people there, but there were people who wanted to be actors in Boeing. In fact, I met a good friend, Jim Mesher, who was a trainer at Boeing, an engineer and a trainer at Boeing. I met him there, and we became good friends. And he also was an actor, and he was wonderful. And so not only
That
did it,
name rings a bell.
oh, really,
I think I may have met Jim Mesher
ah,
at one point in my life.
ah, you
Yeah.
may have, yes, yeah. Well, he became a good friend,
So,
and I used him. I used him as a character. He was playing the perfect role for him, and he was sterling. Yeah. So I did,
wow.
but it was tough to convince Boeing because Boeing is very tight on the money. Um,
Yes.
unless you're,
So,
yeah, well, but Boeing, and well, they're good. They should be like that. It's just like a country should be that way. Hire your
yeah.
own products, hire your own people. Fortify your own
Hmm.
family. But yeah, they were really funny about that because they wanted to keep the budget all inside Boeing, paying and buying from one another. That was hard to get used to, all the budgets, the different budgets, and how people build out and stuff. It's like, well, why don't you just, you don't have to pay your son to mow the lawn. It's like, well, yeah, you do at Boeing. You have to. Everything is, and but I talked them. I said there are some roles where it requires a real actor because it's vitally important that whoever's watching this video believe it. And the first video I did, it was amazing. The feedback from the employees was absolutely astronomical. There were cards and letters and notes coming in through the mail stop, the one of people that
Hmm.
finally something worth watching. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that started convincing Boeing that hiring actors from the outside was okay. And it was okay to tell a story and be interesting for the audience, because I mean, yeah, they're Boeing employees and they have to watch it, but how about they enjoy it and they learn something? Gee, what a
Right.
novel idea that is.
I mean, it sounds like that kind of opened up the door to the industrials where, I've been in Nintendo
Yeah,
commercials, Microsoft commercials, casino commercial. It's like it's just started progressing
Boeing was
and
the first
building.
biggie.
And then,
Boeing was
you
the
know,
first biggie.
a lot of,
Microsoft came and looked at Boeing studios to see all what we were doing and how we were doing it for them to decide what they were going to do. And we had the Pixar came to Boeing first to
wow,
get funding, and Boeing very foolishly
wow.
passed. But I saw the original, the Pixar people came in, and I think I still have the original VHS that they brought in, with all of the original little
Wow.
ones that they were showing us, with little snow globe guy and the baby under the bed and the jumping lamp thing, and yeah.
Yeah. Holy smokes. So let's go back to your training. What you
My last
decided to
training,
then go into to film school or some kind of
film
training,
school.
right? But before that, when you were writing scripts, how did you write your scripts? Did
I
you
just
just
wrote them. I'm
you just wrote
I
it?
just wrote them. Yeah, the fellow, the Brent Layton guy I was telling you about. I'm not name dropping because these aren't like big star people, but I refer to as the guy. Just doesn't sound very relational, does it? But he came alongside and he said, "Well, now when you're writing a script, you need to put this information and that information, and you need to put this and this." So I saw a script. He gave me a script format. I thought, okay, all right, I can do that. And of course, this was on a compact computer type thing with the
Yeah.
sprocket. Boy, am I aging myself. I could die on right now. I could die in front of this. But so so he showed me what to do, and as far as, and then he taught me how to offline edit, which I, once again, technical, oh dear God, on the JVC thing where you've got a half inch over here and a half inch, and you're editing the footage together. Oh dear God, I can't believe I did that. I think back, I cannot believe that I did that.
Yeah.
He taught me how to do that stuff. And the interesting thing, when I say about God-given talent type things, anybody can write, as far as write, but can they win awards? Can they change people's lives? Can they inform? Can they motivate? Can they I think if it's a gift, then you can do it. Then you can take anything and do something with it. And for whatever reason, I was entrusted with some gifts, and one was writing. And a lot of the writers, and these are seasoned, award-winning, been around the horn a long time writers at Boeing. We had 21 writer, producer, directors at Boeing. And these were
Wow.
really, and 9 full-time cameramen with 9 Ikigami cameras. Those suckers were $75,000 a piece, those cameras. So Boeing had a lot of money into Boeing Motion Pictures. And the it was here's what was wild. They not only came to me to voiceover, to do voiceover for their productions, but when I started getting my script started getting noticed by people, they started asking me if I could help them with their script. Me, everybody there had a master's degree. You know, I had I had
Right.
diddly squat. I had Great Falls High School diploma. I mean, I
Yeah.
I had nothing. I mean, in that sense. But they would come to me and ask me for help on their script, or to come up with analogies. I was really good with analogies, like training. Like, well, tell me what they need to understand. So is it kind of like blah 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 blah? Oh, that's it. Yes, yes, I'm going to use that. Things like that. So I had people sitting in my office, you know, which isn't that crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
And so I think about, I have to say this to people who've been beaten down a lot and just never thought much of themselves as a kid and wondered what they were going to do and how they were going to do it, or don't let that stop you. You'd be surprised if it's a gift. If you have that gift in you, you go for it, because you will succeed.
How do you find that gift?
You stumble around like I did. I think you try different things that you have a heart for, things that interest you. I mean, maybe you want to help people. Okay. Well, how can you help people? What is it you can do? Do people tell you, boy, you are a great storyteller? Oh my gosh, I could listen to you for hours. Or do they say, oh, you have such a gift for writing? Do you have to write? I do. I have to write. I can't keep my fingers off the keyboard. I love to write. And that's how I express myself the best. And many times I have people that will say, "Oh, Lee, you should write a book. Oh man, that's inspired me." Or that film, that story. Crowbar was probably the most special one I did, and that's because it was actually my story. And I would have never told my own story because that I know there's just something so ta-da, look at me about doing your own story. But I was encouraged by
Mm.
so many people that said, "Oh my gosh, you have to tell that story." Because it's not about having a rough childhood. It's about how your life can change in one moment by one person. And that's what happened to me. And I maintain that we all can change someone else's life. And it's, one man didn't commit suicide when I was a disc jockey. I tell this to radio people. I said, it's radio, being a radio announcer isn't just about announcing the songs and talking about what you're interested in and becoming a celebrity. It's a responsibility. It really is. Because you don't know who's listening to you. You don't know what's going on in their life or where they're at that moment and what they need so desperately. And radio is about relationship. It's about having a relationship with your audience. And once you have that relationship, there's a responsibility. And there was a song called Vincent. It was a story about Starry Starry Night. Vincent, you remember the song Starry Starry Night? I don't. Don McLean sang it. Great old song,
Mm.
beautiful song. If you haven't heard it, listen to it. It's a story about Vincent Van Gogh and how nobody understood him, and he took his own life. He couldn't stand being ostracized. He took his own life. And so I just said to the audience, this is a beautiful song, and you might forget the words because the melody's so pretty. But listen to the words because this is about someone who is so misunderstood and so alone that he took his own life. In your world, there is somebody like that. You just don't know it. But there's somebody like that that desperately needs a smile, a kind word, something. And it's you that could give it. So that's all I said. And a few minutes after the song ended, somebody called up and there was this silence. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's one of these calls. You get them every once in a while and you're a jock, right? Heavy breathing or whatever. And I said, hello, hello. And then I heard this. And I thought, oh, was this? And then I heard tears. And he told me that he had the gun loaded. It gets me emotional. He had the gun loaded and he was going to kill himself. But he was listening to the radio and he heard what I said, and it gave him hope that there were people out there who were kind and cared, and he didn't do it. And about a
Wow.
week later, this man dropped by a coffee mug with Starry, Starry Night on it. And I still have that
Mm.
cup, and I take it with me everywhere. To Italy, everywhere I've moved, that's gone with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
It's a reminder. Being a filmmaker, being a radio announcer, being a celebrity, whatever, comes with a responsibility. It's not just about money. It shouldn't be just about money or whatever.
Right. Fame. Yep. Attention. Looking at your IMDb here, what caused you to move into the atmosphere of teaching how to act?
Uh, I've always been a teacher at heart. I just always have been. And when I saw the opportunity, I had no experience, of course. Again, I had no experience teaching at all. Zippity doo dah, none. And so I go to the university and I talked to this gal and I said, well, first of all, I have to tell you, because she was saying, oh, do you have a resume and do you have your, this syllabus and all this stuff? And I said,
Yeah.
okay, look, I'm not gonna try and pull the wool over your eyes. I am not the academic, corduroy pants, professor type. I am not at all. I have no training, teaching to training, teaching to train to teach. I have no experience. I have no experience with that. I have no degrees. I have no syllabus. I have a heart for teaching. I love the acting business. I love acting, and I believe I could be good at it. And we talked. We just sat and talked. It got the paperwork out of the way. The fact that I didn't
Yeah.
have paperwork got it out of the way, and so we really talked. And I believe that jobs, relationships, and all of that, it's all about the connection. It's all about that connection. And if you can connect with somebody, you can get the job. And that's pretty much why I've got the jobs I've gotten. And so I had to come up with a syllabus, and I had to call a friend who was a teacher, and I said, "What the heck is a syllabus?" You know, to me, I'm a moron. He said, "No." So he said, "Oh, well,
Yeah.
it's this and this and that." And I said, "Okay, well, I think so." I put something together, and then I sent it to her, and she fine-tuned it, and she sent it back to me. And then, because this gal said, "I want to hire you, but I have to turn in a syllabus to my boss's boss." Oh, that's the
Right.
only reason she needed it. And I had a blast
Yeah.
because what I got to do is I got to bring in some of the people from Boeing, that, like, the camera operator I hired. He was amazing. Jerry Lewandowski was his name. Jerry was amazing. And if I remember right, Jerry worked for National Geographic. I
Oh
mean, we're
wow.
talking, when people, if you ever get the opportunity to do an industrial, don't just sniff at it. Like, oh, an industrial. Yeah, you never know what you're getting into, because some of the things that we produced there were, I mean, they rocked. They were really great. We hired a tiger, Sultan the tiger, a full-grown Bengal tiger, for a shoot. Um, but Jerry Lewandowski came and shot and talk to them about working in film, about what a camera operator is, what he sees, and all of that, and how to relate, and how to look just past the lens or above or whatever for an effect. And he was wonderful. And Jerry shot for me many times. He was one of the sought after cameramen, and this man would hang by his knees in a which he did. Those clay pigeon things that go and shoots the clay pigeon out for hunting. I
Yeah.
did a thing on hearing protection, a film, and I got Ichabod Kane, who was a well-known disc jockey, very very well known, at KMON. No, KMON. That's a different state. Um, Compass, KMPS. He was a disc jockey there. I had him do the voiceover and stuff on it, and I wanted to show what people lose, how they lose their hearing, and it's like a shotgun boom. That'll, you know.
Hmm.
So we did a whole animation of the inside of the ear and all that kind of stuff. Well, I wanted to get this cool shot of the clay pigeon. Well, Jerry's looking at this lock and how it could be picked. So he opens up the big machine that has this clay pigeon tossing thing, and he's like hanging upside down to get this cool shot of the pigeon lining up in the machine and shooting out into the air. You know, you know,
Yeah.
okay, that's the kind of cameraman you want. That's the crew you want, and people who will do whatever it takes to get the job done. And I
What kind of
exactly what you asked, but off we went to that. Oh, because of the acting,
yeah.
teaching acting, I was able to bring these great people in that I'd worked with in the past to add some real flavor of working with a crew and stuff.
Do you think your experience on set experience being a disc jockey, being in productions, did that help
Oh,
kind of sell that position to you, saying, okay, you have experience, you have real world
yeah.
experience, you can teach actors?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think a good actor is like a sponge, and you gather everywhere you go, there's information that you need, whether you know it or not, it's there. And you may not use it right away, but just being around. In fact, James Dean, one of the things he did was he would many times sit in corners of places, and he would just watch people. And Stuart Stern was a very close friend of Jimmy Dean's, and he told me about him, some wonderful, wonderful stories about him. And one of the things he would do is he would really watch people. He'd just watch them, and he would gather up information. And sure enough, he would get a role somewhere down the road, and he would incorporate this gesture that this person he noticed in the bar would do, because it's an interesting gesture. Whatever. And he would incorporate that. And I think a good actor is interested in people and is interested in what makes them tick, what they look like when they're thinking, different things like that. Because to be a good actor, you have to once again be willing to not be you and be somebody else. A narcissist would not make a good actor, because a narcissist, it's all about them.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're a narcissist, yeah, no.
Do you have any experiences with students who attended the class that went off to become actual professional
I
actors?
don't know, because I started getting off into some other things at that point when I left, and I really
Okay.
did not keep track. I saw that a couple people did. They were older actors, and I saw that they were out auditioning. So because a friend
Oh.
called me and said, "Hey, so and so, what do you think? You know, they want to audition for it." And I said, "Oh yeah, give them a shot, give them a shot."
Do you believe, like, if you have the natural talent to act, do you think you still should go through training?
I have mixed feelings about that, because I think if you are a natural, you might muddy the waters by taking training. You can get lost in technique, and it can mess you up. That's my opinion. Now, all the people who train are going to say, "What she's saying," but I remember when the first time I ever took a shot at acting was for the Fabulous Baker Boys was in town. And I was a producer at Boeing at that time, working at Boeing, but you hear about it because you're in the business. And I thought, well, wouldn't that be fun? What a hoot to be like in a major film, you know? Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing about auditioning. I had never done any acting before, but I had directed a lot of people. And there are times as a director that you'll be watching an actor and you'll be thinking, no, you need to this, you need to, yeah, and you're watching them audition and you're thinking, yeah, they need to be more like this or more like that. And many times I think to myself, well, hell, I could probably have done it. You're thinking that doesn't mean you could, but I would be thinking at
Yeah.
different times. And so I thought, well, I've directed enough people. I think I'm going to go down. And because all of the casting directors knew me, because I would call them for actors, I got in, of course. And it's like, it is who you know sometimes. So I got an audition. I had no idea what you do at an audition. I knew nothing. I get in there. There's a bunch of people in the room. I get this piece of paper handed to me, and I'm thinking, oh crap. Okay. And I'm looking at it, and so I went in, and I all I knew was I was going to be a hooker, which no, I don't have any experience in. So it wasn't typecasting. So I just thought, well, I thought, well, a hooker, let's see, how would she feel? I was looking at what she was saying, and I was doing all the right things, but I didn't know, and
Yeah.
I got a call back. Well, so,
Ooh la
but
la.
not knowing. Here's the thing: not knowing that you should, if you get a call back, it's because what you did worked. You don't change it. Because usually the callback means the big dogs are there now. Now the big dogs are going to make the
Oh, yeah.
decision. Well, I didn't know that. So I thought, oh, well, I'll give them something different. Well, the different thing I gave them tossed me out. And I got asked by the casting director, why did you change? Why did you do that? And I said, well, to give them something different. He said, hell, Jeff was there. And he was in the Fabulous Baker Boys, and he was
Yeah.
there in the back watching. I said, "That was him." And yeah, why did
Jeff
you
Bridges,
change
right?
it? So I had no idea, but obviously there was something, a natural thing that I had. Well, that's before I had any training at all, and I thought, well, I need to get training. Now, after,
Mm.
I need to get training. So I got training, but a lot of techniques, do this, don't do that, angles and all of this. And I think it can be like playing Twister or something, the game Twister with the spots
Yeah,
on the floor. I
yeah,
think you can get so
yeah.
tangled up that you can't function. And so I question a little bit. I think there's some very good stuff, and I think the real value to me, the real value is getting out around other actors that have some of the same insecurities and feelings, that they start sharing the connection, getting in front of people and performing, being willing to cry or do whatever you need to do, to let that character live through you. And getting confidence in performance. I think that's the real gift of taking an acting class.
Yeah, I do agree. I often wonder, if we're as a child really good at pretending and imagination, and as we go through life and we start learning all these other nuances and control mechanisms and boxing in people, and then you go to a class, and the class is really to help you unlearn what you've learned to become back to where you were. It's kind of like that rinse repeat motion. Maybe even I like to call it a crazy cycle, because you just keep on going. But I think if someone has that a natural ability to act and become, I have noticed even in myself where I'll be on set, if it's a short or whatever, and the technicalities start rolling in my head versus just being. And I've noticed there's been different nuances where we do different takes, where that's what I do appreciate rehearsal, because then I can think about those technicalities. But then when it's time to shoot it, that's already done, and I can progress forward and become that person. And I've noticed different nuances that come out of me in doing a scene. And so I've often wondered if it is absolutely necessary to do the training, or to continue to do. I guess that
I have to,
I guess
I
that
have to
setting didn't
plug
work.
my
To
thing
do
in
the
here just a second. No, you keep talking. I'm just plug this
oh
in before I lose you. There we go.
to do the training, if it's, is it required, or is it just one of those good practices? And I think everyone's different. I think that's the one thing I've come across, where people need it, people need to practice, they need to continue to sharpen, and there's others who can just drop of a hat go into character.
I think
And
I think if you're meant to be an actor, I think if it's truly a gift, you can be a great actor. But no matter how much training you get, if it's not your gift, I don't care how many classes you go to, you will never be a great actor. You can be an actor and you can get cast, but you will never take those heavy, powerful roles, I don't believe, unless it's a
yeah,
gift.
I think there's not to name any specific shows, but on the Disney Channel, there is a show that came out, and I watched it with my 4-year old. And the acting in it, the reviews of the show literally jumped on the actor, and it was like, this is not, I don't know why they chose her. Her acting was horrible.
Mm, mm.
And after I watched it, we started watching it again. Um, and I noticed it. I saw it this time around. The first time I was like, oh, I was watching, enjoying it, and just whatever. But the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, they're right. There's something not there. She's not in it to win it.
She didn't let the character live. There was too much of her.
Yeah, yeah,
And sometimes
yeah,
that's what happens. There will be a scene where you allow the character to live and come out. And then you take it back. And then you're you for a while. And then you let the character live. And it's inauthentic. It's like, wait a minute, whoa, whoa.
yeah, yeah. What? So let's go from a director perspective. Let's say you do a casting call, you hire an actor. You're like, oh, this actor has it. Is there ever been a situation where you're on set, you guys are getting ready for the scene, and all of a sudden the actor doesn't have it?
Yes, it happened. And it was
What do you
devastating.
do?
You fall apart. It happened to be, I will not name the film. I will not name the person, anything. Um, but I happened to be in the scene, on camera with that one, because normally I don't put myself on camera with things unless it's a small part where they need somebody over here doing something, rummaging around in a garbage can or whatever. Um, but it's very hard to when somebody doesn't know their lines and they don't have the right emotion, and you're supposed to be reacting authentically to that person, and your close up, you got a close up going on you, and this person is stumbling all over, and it's just like you look like you just got a shot of Novocaine. It's like it's horrible. It's absolutely devastating. It's devastating to the crew, to the set, because you shoot it over and over and over and over again, and so you can see I've got unfortunately I've got really good peripheral vision, and I can see every person in the room, and I can feel their chest, the size, and the rolling of the eyes, and the fidgeting, and the gee, I wonder what's going on Facebook. I mean, it was just, it was devastating, absolutely devastating. And because I was on camera in that scene, I it was really, and here's the thing too. Many DPs feel that they can be directors, and they say, "Oh yeah, no problem." Um, and but they can't. They just because they say they can, it doesn't mean just because they're a great DP doesn't mean they can be a director. And in this case, the budget required, because I was on when I was on camera, I couldn't be directing, and so I asked, "Could you jump in and could you, And oh yeah, 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 that did not work. And so I actually had to go outside. I was it was I didn't know what to do. I went outside, and thank God for and see, if I mention names, then it starts naming the film. I don't want to do that, but thank God to a good friend. She was my AD. She stepped in and she started working with that actress and started working with her, and getting her line set and getting her emotion set, because I couldn't be on camera and character and director at that point. And yeah, that can happen. That can happen, and it is devastating. And if the actor doesn't know their lines the day before, don't trust it. I say do not trust it, because I was assured, no problem, no problem. Yeah, big problem. It turned out to be a big
Mm.
problem. So, and just because and here's the thing too, there are many people, editors, who are very good at editing, like commercial production. That does not make them a good narrative editor. Two totally different animals. And I had someone as an editor who had been a commercial editor and was known to be a very good editor. And I had him editing, and it's like he kept sending me stuff, and I was like, no, what, because you need to let the scene breathe. And in commercials, you're boom, 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 shot here,
Right.
this, that. You're showing as much of the product as you can, and it's like, no, you need to let that scene breathe. You need to let the emotion, you need to let the audience see and feel the emotion. And so that was a nightmare. It was, sometimes you have those nightmare productions. It's going to happen sooner or later. It's going to happen. But I have had, I think Crowbar was the gem for me, as far as just being, and oddly enough, it happened to be a film that, like I say, that was my story, that I was encouraged to do. And it was wonderful, like at the film festivals. It was a film that I believe made a difference. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly what to do with it. I mean, I have it, you know,
Mm.
because I'm not trying to make money on it, but I want to do something with it. And maybe just put it on Facebook and make it available. But I had so many people come up to me in tears, after the film, and they said, "That's the story may be different, but that's my life. That happened to me. That happened for me." And there's nothing
Yeah.
more satisfying than that. And having, it was a father-daughter issue, kind of, is what it was. And I was in the first. In fact, it was in Seattle area. I had a man who was in the foyer, and he was kind of standing around over there, and everybody kind of left. It was time to go, and he walked over to me and he said, So you're the writer director of that, huh? And I said, yeah. Uh-huh. And he said, and he just started falling apart. And he said, I got to go talk to my daughter.
Wow.
So it changed someone's heart, which could change someone's relationship, which could change another person's life. And that is what filmmaking is all about to me. Yeah, we can do entertaining stuff and, rock 'em, sock 'em, car crashes and scare them to death and all that. We can do all that stuff and
Yeah.
have some fun moments, sure. But I believe the real heart of filmmaking is to make a difference in people's lives.
I'm speechless. What?
Obviously, I'm not. Well, well, Italy, prosecco.
Ah,
Salute.
salute. So, as a director, what genre would your life be if someone were to direct a film about you?
Romantic comedy.
Hmm.
Probably heavy on the comedy.
What has changed from your experiences now looking back? What kind of advice would you give someone who wants to get into the industry or wants to figure out are they going to be a good actor
Mm.
or a director or writer?
Is it your heart? Is it something that you have to do? Forget about money. Forget about the money aspect. Forget about the am I going to be a star? Forget about all that part of that, all of that ego part of it. Put the ego in a box and lock it aside. Is it something you gotta do? Whether it be writing or acting, or creating films, creating stories, and directing them and making it, whatever. If it's your heart, if it's really your heart, then go with it. And if it's really your heart and it's also your gift, you'll do well.
Good advice.
Be
Leigh, is there
tabs
anything that
with
you're
the
working?
training. Schooling, training, what is that?
Tools in the toolbox. Do you need them or
Yeah,
don't you? I think it's all up to the individual, right? What are you working on anything next? Anything coming up?
I'm,
Are you still doing film?
I'm
Are
in
you still
Italy, man.
writing? You're just chilling, relaxing.
I made a decision a long time ago that I wanted to live here. And so I've been paddling around the shallow end of the pool. There
That's
are
awesome.
opportunities for acting and teaching, and I'm looking at the idea of teaching English via acting, teaching
Yeah,
acting,
yeah.
and they learn English.
Awesome.
Yeah, I thought that would be a lot of fun, especially for teenagers. Teenagers are a little bit lost wherever. They're not as lost here. There's a totally different relationship between parents and teenagers here. They actually really like each other and hang out together for real. Um, but but
Family.
they get bored. They get bored, and acting is something is very American. Hollywood, and so they would be very interested in that. And they do want to learn English. So I thought that would be kind of fun to do. And I've gotten to know some pretty good actors over here. There are some very good actors in Italy, some very, very good actors. And then there's the spaghetti Western type actors. Everything is a little more dramatic, drammatico in Italy. They're commercial.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're commercials.
Yeah.
It's not like when they're average when they're with like a cleaning product, it's not wow, this really works. It's wow. I mean, it's just totally I'm not kidding you. It's like eyes popping out like whoa. There's but they're that way. But they are.
Yeah.
I'm
Very
talking. I've been in
expressive.
Italy for a while, but they're very expressive. Their hands are always going. They're very expressive because what your hands do is what you really mean. There's it's there's your whole body is in communication. And so Italians stand around like in the down the Corso, the main street. They're standing around groups, clusters. There's clusters of men and women, and they're talking, and they're having these discussions, and they're and they spin around and turn around like they're going to walk off, and they come back, and they're having this heated discussion, And they are communicating. And so their commercials are the same way. They really communicate that this product is great.
Yeah. Well, well, it's interesting because it's based on
Uh,
culture, and if you're going to teach them how to act, which direction do you go?
I teach
Like,
them
is it depend on the?
American style. No, the
Okay,
natural style. Yeah. I mean,
calm it
if they want
down.
to act, if they want to act in Italian films, that's totally up to
Yeah,
them what they do with it.
yeah.
But I will show them the difference. I will show them the difference of the American style and the Italian style about what hits you the hardest. You know, when a person's emotions, it's like when you're watching almost any film, when a person's emotions are all over their sleeves, you don't have to engage. It's like, well, we know he's upset. I mean, look, he's stomping around in circles and yelling and throwing his arms in the air. But what if that person is so angry that they're still and it's all in their face? And you have to read their face and their eyes to realize just how angry they are. In fact, they look so angry. Do they have a knife in their behind their back or something, maybe? Because it's so
Mhm.
palpable. And that's the difference. And I have to tell you this because it's a hysterical story. Do I have time?
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
When I was in Italy a few years ago, I went to Naples, and a friend of mine was staying. He was a Boeing executive. He was staying in this rented house that belonged to an Italian filmmaker, big filmmaker. And so they went to a party, and I was left there. I took my mother with me to Italy, and I was gonna. He said, "Well, if you want to watch a movie, there's here's the thing." And so I started playing this movie, and I'm watching the movie, watching, and there's no audio. So I'm looking at the buttons, the audio buttons, and it's like what's oh, and then I heard a sound. It's like, oh, okay. There was like a crunch sound. Like there was a close up of a foot in the gravel, and there was a crunch sound. I thought, oh, okay, there is audio. All right. So I'm watching, and there's like no audio. And I'm watching this movie like a hawk. I mean, my nose is practically on the screen. And I'm watching this everything. I'm watching everything. I look like a dog looking at a biscuit, man. I'm just like, I'm watching everything. And then there's another little sound. And then there's a gunshot. And it's like, whoa, ah. And I'm really watching. I don't want to go to the bathroom. I don't want to leave this film. And I'm watching all these scenes, and there's a little sounds here and there, and then there's a short conversation on the phone, just a few words on the phone. Okay, so I get through watching this whole movie, and my heart was pounding. But here's the thing: the acting was so good that I knew exactly who the bad guy was, who the good guy was, and I understood what was going to happen. I knew because the acting was so fast. There wasn't one line of dialogue except this short, like 5 word thing in a phone booth. And I thought, with these fabulous actors, I'm not telling you specifically why just yet. With these fabulous actors, I cannot believe that this director had the guts to have no audio, to cut all the audio. And I mean, this is a mind blowing. So the people got back from the party, and I said, I just watched the most incredible movie I've ever seen in my life. I was mesmerized. What I have never ever heard of a director having no audio. I mean, with two big stars, and they've got no audio through the whole thing, and there's like little sounds here. Unbelievable. And he said, what? I said, yeah, the interpreter. How clever for this director to force me to be the interpreter. Wow. Yeah. He goes over and he pushes a button, all the audio's there. I had the Foley track on. so so the crunch of gravel
Nice.
was some, Bob and his wife Francesca, going in the gravel, and then the gunshot, all of these mix these
Yeah.
everything that was there was a Foley track. So there were only sounds
Wow.
here and there, enough for it to be perked
Yeah.
up. But you know what? And I thought, how could they do that to Sean Penn and Nicole Kidman? These are big actors. It's like, yeah, by the way, we're not going to use any of your audio. And so that's what I
Right.
thought. That's what I thought. And I thought, how clever. The interpreter is the audience. That film was so well done as far as the acting and everything that I knew exactly what was going on. That's good acting.
Without
No
audio.
audio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All in the face, all in the face, slight gestures and things. That's all it was that. So that was one of the things I felt, and
Yeah.
I felt like a prized idiot. I mean, when he looks at me like, what? And he takes the thing and he pushes two buttons, and it's like we laughed. God, I think we polished off a bottle of wine on that one.
I think I remember watching that
Yeah,
movie
try it without audio.
a while back ago. Yeah. Well, I mean,
But
they do say to watch a movie for actors who want to study. Watch a movie with no audio. Just watch
mhm,
it. Watch how the body language, reactions, facial
yeah.
gestures. Um, that's funny. What Lee? How can people reach out to you if they want to reach you? What's the best way?
Facebook.
Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm in connection with quite a few people on Facebook. Yeah, so
Yeah. I mean, that's how I found you.
yeah, great. Well, I've heard of you, so
I'm
I
safe.
there's so many ways you can say that. I've heard of you. There's-
Yeah.
yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard.
That's true.
So yeah, no, I do miss the business, but yet I had a wonderful ride. I had a wonderful ride, met wonderful people, and oh, the other thing I wanted to say is, as a new director, new writer director, um, make sure that the producer you find has the same vision you have and the same heart you have about it and the same emotional connection to the story, because it is really about the story. I mean, the actors are, sure, the actors, make it happen, but it's really about that story and finding the right people to tell that story. And um, and I will say, Bry Troyer was my producer, and he was amazing. He was amazing. I could not have done it without him. And oh, this will be very helpful. But let's save it till last, right? Um, for to get a film produced, of course, you need money. You got to, pay everybody. Well, I guess you don't have to. People don't do that, but I don't work like that. I believe that if you believe in the story and it's a great story, you will get the money, and because people should be paid for what they do. They just should be.
Yeah.
Period. And so I paid everybody. Everybody got paid what they wanted. And some people took a little bit of a cut here and there, but for the most part, everybody got paid. And when I first went to Brian, I was talking about the story. He loved it. He loved the story. He had a real understanding of the story and a real heart for producing it. And everybody I had on the team was all like, yes. And I had great, great people, a great crew. And and I thought we would get some money together, and I'd get a little money here and a little money there, and bits and pieces. And I've never been good with the funding things and that kind of stuff. I've always felt weird about that, about GoFundMe and stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's that I don't want to
Yeah.
fail. It's like inviting people to a party and nobody shows up.
Right.
One or two
I feel the same way.
one or two people show up and you have a table full of food and enough beer for a
Yeah.
football team, and it's like, can you just sit down with this one person? So maybe
Yeah.
that's why I don't like GoFundMe, the embarrassment of nothing happens. But it just wasn't going to happen. It's like we were getting to the date we were going to start doing something, and so it looked like it wasn't going to happen, and I felt so sad. But I called Bry and Sandra, and I said, I don't see us going to happen. There's not the money, and I'm just afraid I can't pay everybody, and I can't ask them to work for free. And so I said, so for now it's just on hold. I don't know. So it was left at that. And then I was talking to a friend, a connection. I'll tell you what, relationships, you never know where the money's going to come from. But I was talking to one friend who said, well, you should talk to so and so. she's got lots of money. She just lives down the street. And I said, yeah, but I don't know her. Oh, she was at my jewelry party. I said, she was at your jewelry party? Yeah, Carrie. And I said, oh yeah, the cute little blonde gal that, that was running around with cowboy boots or something. I said, well, yeah, I saw her. I don't know her. I mean, certainly not well enough to ask her for money. Oh no, she's the type of person that's really, she has a heart for that kind of stuff. You really should go talk to her. And I thought, oh dear God. Well, I love this story. I love the project. It needs to happen, and I am willing to knuckle under, and go, slithering over, please. And oh, that's so hard for me. Oh, I hate asking for money. So I went over there and I talked to her, and she kind of, you know, my brother-in-law my brother-in-law might be interested because he's kind of into acting, and he lives over in Eastern Washington, and he likes acting and that kind of stuff, and they do plays over there. And I thought, well, that's a no. She's just kind of brushing me off, like, oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
and she said, he said, well, let me give him a call. And I thought, oh God, oh, this is going to be so uncomfortable. So she calls him. And she said, "Yeah, Danny, would it be okay? This gal. She's doing this movie, and she needs funding and stuff. But I thought you might be interested, and because they're a family that has money. They have money. So he says, well, yeah, I guess. And I thought, well, that doesn't sound very enthusiastic, but I thought, follow through. So I call him on the phone a few days later, and I talk to him, and I tell him about the story. And I don't give any details. I just tell him that, we're doing this thing and it's good. He said, well, so how much money do you need? And I said, well, I could squeeze it together if everybody's willing to take a cut in their pay, and we don't do much promotion, and we don't do any postcards or posters or anything. And if we really pare it down, I could probably pull it off for 10,000. But and he says, well, how much to do it right? And I said, to do it right, probably like 40,000. He said, okay, well, all right, okay. And I said, well, so do you think you're interested? Or I'm on the phone, right? And I'm saying, well, so do you think you're interested? And he said, yeah. He says, yeah. Oh, okay, all right. And I said, well, so how much do you think you would be willing? He said, well, I can do all of it. I'm looking at my phone and I'm thinking, did I just hear what I heard? No way. I don't know this person. He's never met me. And I said, well, now wait a minute. You haven't even read the script yet. I mean, you haven't, I mean, I think you should read the script. I'm talking him out of it, right? But I said, I think you need
Yeah.
to read the script. I mean, I said, I want you to feel good about doing this. I want you to really be in on this. I don't want you to just do it to be a nice guy or because your sister-in-law suggested. I really want you. And he said, well, okay, go ahead and send it over. So it's like, you're going to be kidding me. What? This just doesn't happen. So I sent it over to him. And he calls me a few days later. He says, okay, well, I read the script. I said, well, so what do you think? Do you still want to do it? And he said, yeah. No, I think it's a good story. No, I think it's good. He said, there's a couple of things, though, that he said, this thing that the dad does to the daughter, and he says, I just can't imagine that. And then there's this, he said, then this one scene here, and I said, okay, well, I need to tell you something. Everything in this film is absolutely true. Everything that was said, everything that was done. There was silence on the other end. And I said, this is my story. He said, oh my God, your dad's? And I said, yeah. Then, oh, wow. And I said, I don't want to tell this story because I want people to say, oh, poor wee, that's not it. It's because there are a lot of people who have been really injured and hurt, so they don't believe in themselves anymore, as children. And I believe that children are like a wet vat of cement when they're very little. And anybody who walks by can toss whatever they want in, whatever garbage or good stuff they want to toss in. And if the parents aren't watching closely or the parents are abusive, there's all of this garbage thrown into their foundation. And when you look at your foundation and it looks like crap, you're not going to build anything on that foundation worth anything because you got a crappy foundation. You're not going to trust it to hold anything worthwhile. So you don't build a skyscraper on it, you build a shack on it. But I believe that in every life, someone could come on. I call it a crowbar moment. And you aren't going to know what crowbar moment is unless you see the film, because the key thing is the crowbar. And I know it's not a slasher film. Um, but I believe that that one thing said from some one person way back here can cause you to feel a certain way about yourself, and then in your life someone else can say something else and it turns it clear around, and all of a sudden your life takes off. And that's what happened in mine, and that's what Crowbar's about. It's about one person making a difference and believing in you, because every human being needs three things. They need love, they need to feel safe, and they need to have hope. If they have those things, they're okay. And I believe that we all can give that to another person. And that's what Crowbar was about. And that's why it was a special story. Not because it was my story, but I used it to tell that.
Well, I appreciate your time, Lee. Thank you so much for being on the Downing
Well,
Cut.
thank you. And thank you for, I mean, my gosh. Blah, 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 blah. It's so Italiano. Blah, 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 blah.
That's what this is all about, you know?
Okay, okay. I
Yeah.
hope that it's useful to you somehow.
It is. It is. I mean, this is the reason why I started this podcast, was because there's so many different podcasts out there that are talking to A-listers, Hollywood people who are famous. And I'm like, what about us indie folks? I need to highlight indie folks to say, hey, what are you working on? How can I help you? Let's promote your stuff, promote your work. Let's help others who want to get into the industry, give them some knowledge without having to pay any money. They don't have to go see anybody. Like, how do I get in? So I think it's adding different perspectives, because everybody has different paths. I had a different path. And, there's people that stick to the book when it comes to training. There's people that just figure it out for themselves. And I think it works both ways.
Yes.
I don't think there is one set way.
Sometimes it's the training that gives you the confidence.
Yes.
It puts the wheels on the vehicle for you. The training does. But I still believe that, the engine's either there or it's not. It doesn't matter if it has wheels, if it has no engine. So it's kind of like if the talent's in there.
Right. And the stories that you told, your experience, I think, is a true testament, because you started with nothing and you just started going. You know what I mean?
It really did.
But I think that's huge, because anything is possible. And that's what people need to believe.
And the willingness to do whatever it takes. I mean, don't be one of those directors that isn't willing to pull cable or hold a pepper light because the C stand is broken, and you've got to take some gloves and hold whatever you need to do. Make a Fisher dolly out of a 2x4 because the Fisher dolly dies. You go find a 2x4 and you do a pad up thing with a 2x4. You've got to be willing to do whatever and not get stuck on the A-lister type stuff. It's like, oh, well, if we don't have a red, or if we don't have a this or that, we can't produce something really quality. That is